You all know I'm going to image describe myself again since we weren't recording. Thanks, everyone. And thanks for your patience. Hi, everyone, and welcome. My name is Moira. I am a disability cultural activist and access doula and leading the Disability Curatorial Arts Fellowship, the first time ever at Culture Push. So I'm super excited about that and expanding our culture push. So today I'm wearing a blue baseball cap with a cartoon cloud on the top of it. I have long dark hair, light colored skin. I'm Lenape, Kickapoo, and Sami descent. And I have dark blue eyes that are almost black. And I'm wearing glasses that have like purple spots on them. And I have a long sleeve, very cozy, thick sweatshirt on today. Has a hood and it's a burgundy maroon color. And behind me is a very gnarly, twisty, turny, black and gray, kind of crunchy, um, close-up image of a black willow tree. And again, welcome everyone. So yeah, I'm gonna go through some of the things about the Disability Arts Fellowship. It's gonna be a slideshow. We have about 15 slides. I'm happy to stop and answer any questions. Please feel free to raise your hand, to add things into the chat, to just speak out loud. You know, any way that you want to ask questions or make comments or anything like that is very welcome here. This is a disability-centered space, so we accept and appreciate any kind of ways your body, mind, spirit needs to move and be while we're together. So this first image is an image of exploding disco balls. It's very bright colors. They're wobbling, they're moving, they're vibrating. There are 3 of them. One is bright purple in the center. Thanks, Megan, for the hearts. And in the, thanks, see, we all love disco balls, exploding or non. And then there's another exploding, wobbling disco ball in the right side, I think, at least it's my right side, which is orangey, golden, bronze. And then over on, I think the left side, again, sorry, this could be very backwards, is like a marbleized hot pink disco ball that has multiple hooks and strings hanging from it. And the background of that image has multiple textures and colors from light blues to purples, lavenders, bright oranges, and then there's some bits of orange floating around and moving. And then we're going to go to the next slide. Just to let you know, these slides, I think, do a little tumble every time. So just so you know. Yep, it's a slight tumble. I hope that's okay. And then I'm going to read these slides out. And you can ask me a question, make comments, anything you'd like when I'm done with each slide. So Culture Push, who the heck are we? We are, and I'm excited to say that we have several people here who are part of Culture Push. Clarenda McLeod, who is our tech guru for the evening. Surhabi Naki, I hope I pronounced Serb's name properly. I'm so used to saying Serb, is our incredible digital media manager. Danae Howard is our brilliant director of the Black Utopian Fellowship. Me, I'm Moira Williams. I'm the Access Doula, disability cultural activist, and I guess director of Disability Arts Curatorial Fellowship now. And Senhei Ali is our generous accounts manager. I like putting generous next to accounts manager. And C, who is here, yay, or Constantine Jones is our magical admin or administrator collaborator. So welcome. I'm glad to see you here. And then our history and our mission. Our current focus is the Fellowships for Utopian Practice. The fellowship is a process-based program for artists and other creative people who are seeking to test new ideas through civic engagement. Culture Push offers the fellows concrete financial and institutional support, including feedback and mentoring, a stipend, and fiscal sponsorship for funding efforts. During the fellowship year, so these fellowships are a year long, fellows collaborate with different communities and the Culture Push staff to find viable working methods for realizing ambitious hybrid projects. While Culture Push emphasizes the visual and performing arts, the fellowship program is open to people working in any discipline aiming to expand their practice and beyond its traditional borders. So Culture Push and disability culture. I did make up a Google Doc for everyone to review and to take home. And if you could put that link in there, Claranda, that would be great. So it has the same material that we're reviewing, but also the application with each question. So you could literally use those questions and go back and forth just on one doc throughout your application time if you like. But so that's one of the access things that I wanted to do for all of you. And if anyone wants that as a PDF or a Word doc, please let me know. And I'm happy to email you one of those. So getting back to Culture Push and disability culture, we centered disability justice as a way of moving together across disability, race, sexuality, gender, and class. We do this to work collectively to expand our civic engagement for artistic and human needs. Disability justice for us at Culture Push is always emergent and full of interdependent ecologies. We embrace and connect with Sin Valid's 10 principles of disability justice. And we also are aware that there are multitudes of different disability justices and are really interested in that. Which we center and continue to center, organize and offer disability events for and with mixed abilities communities and people. Our disability support is part of each of our fellowships equally. And what we mean by that is that if you self-identify as a person with disabilities, you are supported by us no matter what and no matter which fellowship you apply to or receive. So we have 3 different fellowships. Right now we have the Utopian Fellowship and the Black Fellowship, Utopian Fellowship, and then our Disability Arts Curatorial Fellowship right now. And you're more than welcome to apply to any of those. Our desire is to meet you in the best way we can and work out accessibility with you and for you together. Creating accessibility is an act of intimacy and grace that is flexible and interdependent. It is something we co-create at the beginning of your fellowship, and it is an ongoing process and relationship we continue with you throughout your fellowship with us. And we hope to have a continued relationship with you, and so we continue that there too. It is intentional. Our disability culture and cultivation is intentional and a vital part of our ever-growing disability culture at Culture Push. And next slide is coming. And more Culture Push and disability culture. Just we want to share what we mean by disability. And it's not a limited definition, nor is it static. It's always changing. So by disability, we mean any person self-identifying as disabled. At Culture Push, disability can be, but is not limited to, sick, spoony, ill, chronically ill, blind, low-sighted, deaf, hard of hearing, mad, intellectual disabilities, chemical disabilities, TBI, cognitive disabilities, and neurodivergent, and so many more too. We often use the word CRIP at Culture Push. We do this to reclaim the word cripple and to prevent ranking disabilities as we collectively work towards equity. CRIP is short for cripple. It is a term historically used to stigmatize and oppress disabled people. Disability justice often uses CRIP as a way to reclaim the word cripple. Please do not use the word cripple to identify a person, people, or group unless they give you permission to. Thanks. We support mixed abilities, curating, organizing, and events. We've had multiple events and organizings that we've done at Culture Push. Supporting mixed abilities is complex and important. It asks us to identify and bridge between different capacities, orientations, and relationships of power with people with different disabilities across race, sexuality, gender, class, and so on. And that's a quote from Skin, Tooth, and Bone. The basis of movement is our people, a disability justice primer by Sins Invalid, page 65. Okay, I'm gonna shift to the next slide. Does anyone have any questions or anything they want to add or share? Okay, cool. I'll keep going. So some things we're looking out for that we want to see in your application. So we want to see that you're testing a new and previously unrealized idea that expands the scope, expands your own practice. Could be going in a different direction. It could be a dream that you've had, holding it in your pocket for a while, and you've done something similar to it, but you haven't been able to really get in there and think about it and really do what you want with it. And then, so also in your application, we want to see that things are going to occur during the fellowship year. We certainly want you to continue the work in any way. We hope it grows, but we really want to see a bunch of it occurring during the fellowship year. We also want to see that it's taking place within the 5 boroughs of New York City. Projects may have components outside of New York City, but they will not be fiscally, and this could be flexible for me. They won't be supported by our staff at Culture Push, but this doesn't mean that you have to live in New York City in order to do any of these projects and have connections with New York City. I'm going to move on to the next slide and talk about that a little more. Does anyone have any questions or thoughts or anything they want to jump in with? Okay, cool. Thanks. More things to look out that we'll look out for in the applications is that we want to see that the works are interactive and engaging, engaging the public entirely or in part in accordance with our mission. And in the Google Doc, I have links to our mission. And our definition of civic engagement includes online or in-person public talks, like interactive components, skill shares, participatory performances, and similar activities that in some way address the public good and have clearly defined goals for serving as a means of generative social change. And some of these things, and again, this is the first time we're doing a curatorial fellowship. Some of the things have been from zine making to movement in the park to beautiful, beautiful ceremonies and remembrances by designated streetlights and corners. And so those are some of the things that we consider as skill shares or participatory performances or any kind of engagement that addresses the public good. So I'm going to go to the next slide. And so
just a quick,
yeah.
There's a question in the chat. Would you like to address that now or would you like
Sure.
to
Yeah.
wait? Okay, great. And the new person has joined us, so.
Oh, great. Welcome. Let's see.
I can read it out if you want. When you say activities need to take place in New York City, does that mean the culminating work and exhibition programs or all the work, like studio time?
Oh, I would say because this is a curatorial fellowship, I imagine that we would be meeting often online. And so that's okay. And that's also a thing that we do regularly with our fellows. We would love to have you come and meet folks, as kind of like as a cohort with the other fellows. Um, you so the curatorial fellowship will be, maybe you want to curate, I'll give an example, which might be clearer. Maybe you want to curate a show with New York City disabled artists, or mixed disabled New York City artists with people from Boston, right? And how would you do that? Most of the curatorial fellowship is going to be about thinking out and pulling together a disability curatorial voice, um, access, like what kind of accesses you would, accessibility access would you provide for your artists within the show, for yourself, for your audience, and how would you negotiate and maybe create or co-create the emergent strategies within a gallery that's not a disability center gallery, or a community space, or a park. And so it's really about bringing those ideas around. So the main thing is to have a connection to New York City and the five boroughs, like to know the vibe, the culture, like what's happening in the arts and community spaces, disability culture. That's the key thing. And we do want to see it, either online or in person too. I hope that's helpful. Is that helpful?
This is Megan. Yeah, that was my question. That's really
Oh,
helpful. So thank
okay,
you. Yeah.
cool. Cool. Thanks, Megan. Um, so the next thing that we look out for too in your proposal is like, what is civic engagement? And so at Culture Push, we define civic engagement as collaboration and group learning through active and participatory experiences. It is a collective activism and advocacy working to bringing about political or social change through increasing public awareness of and support for specific causes. Past fellows' works have engaged with prison abolition, trans rights, Black joy and liberation, disability justice, and climate justice, to name a few. I'm going to move to the next slide. And does anyone else have other questions or anything they want to share or have a comment? Mhm. Okay, so I'll keep going then. Let me just do that. So other things that we look for, when we're talking about interactive, we'd like to see interactive, interactive works that engage the public entirely are in part. Oh, did I go backwards? Maybe not. I'll just keep going. In part or in accordance with our mission, our definition of civic engagement includes online and/or in-person public talks, live interactive components. I did skill shares, participatory performances, and similar activities that in some way address the public good and have clearly defined goals for serving as a means of generating social change. Next slide. So we did do that. Okay, here we go. So one thing that's really, really, really important in the things that we're looking for in our application is the idea of process-based working. So process-based working and thinking is take your time moments for you to deeply think about stuff, and just let things happen. Like you may start with an idea and then it changes because you've given yourself that permission, and we're helping you and supporting you to take that time. So things may shift and change. And you may have some incredible aha moments or just some incredible, oh, I love being slow moments. Um, so process-based working and thinking means giving yourself permission to slow down, take time to think and contemplate, ask questions, dream vibrantly, play, incubate ideas, try things out, make mistakes, try things out again, critically analyze ideas, consider factors like feasibility, which is a key thing that we look forward to in the application, practicality, another thing that we really look for in the application, and alignment with goals or constraints. Try different approaches, challenge conventions. We love that. Create emergent strategies. We also love that. It means assessing the strengths and weaknesses of each idea and determining which ideas feel the best and have the most potential for you and your project and your work going forward as well. Does anyone have any questions before I go to the next slide? I was just checking the chat. All right, I'll move off to the next slide. What we offer you during your disability fellowship year. So this is a whole year that you get to hang out with us, which we would love. You receive a $2,000 honorarium for the project. You get fiscal sponsorship from Culture Push for additional grant-based fundraising and individual contributions. This is really, for me, really important, and I think it's really important for everyone, but for me, thinking about curatorial ideas and this fellowship and doing a show, having that fiscal sponsorship means a lot for getting a show shown, getting it out there. So the fiscal sponsorship is really a big deal. Access to materials for the arts, networking meetings with the Culture Push board, executive director, staff like us, advisors, and other fellows, marketing via the Culture Push network, email list, and social media contacts for promotional purposes, mentorships with experts in the field, which is really cool too, because we offer stipends for co-thinkers and mentors as part of your fellowship. If you, decide to work with a mentor or a co-thinker. We love when fellows build relationships with their mentors and co-thinkers, and they can be mentors and co-thinkers can be anyone from within Culture Push or people who you may really want to meet and get to know, pick their brains, brainstorm with, or people you don't know that maybe we can connect you to. You also have an opportunity to contribute to or edit our online journal, Push Pull, which is super cool. This opportunity has some financial support for editing and also can be online or as a physical publication. We also offer an opportunity to present your research and project development at the annual Culture Push Symposium. Our symposium has been held at Movement Research, Creative Time, community centers, in gardens and parks, all over the place. And usually our symposium is multiple spaces throughout the time that we have our symposium. You also have an opportunity to exhibit your work at a public presentation produced by Culture Push alongside past current fellows at our annual symposium. That's another key thing with the symposium. Culture Push does not provide an exhibition space for projects, but we will work with fellows to help secure suitable sites. So this is really important to know. We do, with the Curatorial Fellowship, we are not offering an end site, like a gallery, a community space, a library, anywhere for you to mount your show. Again, this is that will help you if that's what you're looking to do, but this is primarily to support you and your critical thinking and your development of a research project, of a curatorial project, and of your curatorial voice, and to learn all the things and, you know, as many of the things, because again, they're not static either, that go hand in hand with curating a mixed abilities disability show. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, I'm going to go to the next slide. So here are some examples of some work that are disability works. And so with disability, the disability culture and disability art making doesn't really have one specific look or feel or way of being. It's like any other culture. Our disability culture is like any other culture, where it's made of history, arts, music, food, politics, everything. Our culture has all these things, and none of them are static, and none of them are clearly defined. So, particularly because it's disability isn't just one disability, right? We're mixed abilities. We're a community of people from different cultures, and then we have our own disability culture and different disabilities simultaneously. So it's really fantastic. I think I get really excited. I get chills when I think of working with mixed abilities disabled folks. So here is an example of a piece of work by Denise Fletcher from Tangled Arts, and it's a tactile piece that's from different wood and an animal bone. And I think there are some seeds in there that we can't see. And so the image description here is a male presenting person and profile with short black hair. They're light skinned. They're wearing a t-shirt that's black and white with short sleeve. The short sleeves are white, and there's a black and white graphic on the front of the black part of the t-shirt. The person is reaching their arm out and touching this sculpture, and looking at it as well. And to the left side of the image it says, "This piece is a tactile work. Please touch." I'm going to move to the next slide. And again, this is something that I co-created with and thought out with Tangled Arts and with the artist who Gloria Swain. We simultaneously were doing a disability show in about 2019, and we both had several folks who just couldn't make the show at all. There was just no way they were going to be able to get the work done, be there, or anything, and that was fine. That's cool. There was no judgment about that. It was mostly a concern about, like, this person is part of our community and part of our show, so how are we going to support them? You know, we want to make sure that their name is still part of the show and all these other things. So we both simultaneously, in this kind of solidarity and trying to get this kind of act going, you know, within disability spaces, particularly creative spaces that are exhibition centered or performance centered, about holding space. And so we held space for each of the artists. We listed their names, had their names listed where their works would have gone, and described the works, and they were still part of the show. And so this is part of, like, thinking out critically, what is disability culture? How do we support disability culture? What is disability justice? This is another way of thinking of disability justice. And what could disability cultural practices, curatorial practices be? What could they look like? How can they live? So that's just one example. And then here, this is from a recent show that I curated in California. And this was super fun. We did a workshop, as we did several workshops, but one was about thinking about your access needs and desires and making them into a zine or an object, or writing things out in any way you wanted to. And so some of these letters are from some of the folks who were part of the workshop. And so what we did is, because not everybody who was at the workshop was going to be in the show, we invited people. We asked them, like, hey, your letters, your things, your images are so cool. Can we, is it okay to use some of them for our title for our show? And so that's where this is from. And everybody gets credit and is listed for that. And that's another way of thinking of disability community too. And building, like co-building community. This is, some of you know this, I'm just putting one of these up. This is a participation card for virtual and also in-person events. And it's something that you can put in your virtual background. I made a series of these that are available for people to download and print out. And these are cards that indicate how you want to interact with folks or engage with folks. And this one, and they're in red, yellow, and green. And then I always have an extra one that people can add their own statement to or recolor it. But this one being yellow with a texture, it has a yellow background and a stripy texture that has green and dots in it. And it's like a dark purple, in starting with capital letters. It says, "Oh," and 3 O's and an exclamation point, "only if I know you." So this indicates that this person may not want to chat with anyone unless they know them. Moving on to the next slide. Does anyone have any questions or anything they want to add? Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I have a question about I just wondering for because you're showing some slides about the previous show you curated. I wonder how culture push during the period time of for our fellowship. Is there a way we can get a mentorship for, or any guidance for helping the artist, the potential artists in the show, more like for financially, like getting grants to support them to create work for the exhibition, for this fellowship?
Well, that is definitely a question for Clarenda, who may be able to answer that now or not.
I'll say what as I understand it, the Curatorial Fellowship is to develop the idea and the practices around the show. We don't necessarily expect there to be a show at the end of the fellowship year. This is true for all the fellowships. That's what the process-based part is about. I don't think we would have capacity, since we have already usually 8 to 9 fellows that we're dealing with, to also offer support to artists participating in a show that comes from the Disability Curatorial Fellowship. However, we will help us in any way we can, of course. And the curator is always supported through fiscal sponsorship. Would be for there's a 10-year fiscal sponsorship. So so if you're a fellow, you have access to fiscal sponsorship for 10 years. But if you happen to actually are able to pull together a show within that year with all your thoughts and process in place, that's fantastic. But we would only be able to support that show in a limited fashion. But that limit may include fiscal sponsorship for other grants, which can be really useful. Does that help answer that question?
Oh, yes, thank you.
Thanks, Clarenda. Moira speaking again. Thanks for your question too. So we're going to move to our, I believe, final slide, which is nothing. We're done. Welcome. Thank you. I think that we do have.
You skipped that slide.
Oh, I did. Thank
So
you.
we didn't talk about this yet. So let's just quickly talk about it.
Disability in action. Woo! So we're going to be holding a disability arts curatorial working session where you can join us, and it's going to be me. And if you want to dig in a little bit more into the Disability Arts Cultural Fellowship writing process, get more tips, ask questions, etc., I'll be there, and you can bring your application. You can be working on it. You can ask me questions. I can guide you. I will not be a panelist, so none of my answers are going to be definitive things for becoming a fellow. So I'm just there to guide you and help you think things out. And I'm happy to do that. And it's going to be a 2-hour session on Saturday, September 21st, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern time. And if you look in the Google Doc that I shared with y'all, that Clarenda shared with y'all, really, there's the link there to register. And again, that Google Doc has all sorts of hints highlighted for you and all sorts of things in the doc for you to look at and go through and think about as you write your proposal. And again, like, you can get in touch with me at Culture Push, and it's Moira, MOIRA, at culturepush.org. And just please put anything that's about Disability Fellowship. You don't have to write the whole thing out. So I know, and I can respond to you more quickly, and I'll answer questions and things like that. But does anyone have any other questions or anything they want to add, or any accessibility comments or anything like that? I'm happy to hear them and support in any way. Does anyone have anything they want to add? Are you all good? Yeah. Yeah. We can hang out. We have a couple more minutes just in case something percolates. But it's up to you.
This is Megan, just saying thank you. This has been really helpful, and it's given me a lot to think about. So that is a good thing.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. That's exciting. I'm excited to know that. Thanks for sharing. And did you have a question as well that you raised your hand? Yeah.
Yes. So I just have a general question about the application. I wonder, can you also talk about the relationship between the utopian, the fellowship, versus a disability curatorial this fellowship? What kind of connection or differences or uniqueness you want to emphasize on? Because for me, I'm kind of debating which one I want to go. So that's the kind of something I kind of want to know a little bit more. Thank you.
Sure. I'm happy to talk about that. Well, so the curatorial fellowship is only for self-identified disabled folks. Whereas the other fellowships, and this is part of the Utopian Fellowship family. Whereas the other fellowships are not, or, you can be disabled, anyone can apply to those. And when I say self-identifying disabled folks, certainly you could collaborate with someone who may or may not be self-identified disabled, in a collaborative way, co-creating, things like that. That's part of my practice. But so then this, all of the Utopian fellowships are about process. So that's a thing they all have that are similar. They're all a year long. They all get the same stipend. They have the same features that I shared about mentorship, about push-pull, about the symposiums, about us supporting you, about the work not necessarily having to be completed by the end of the year, because it's a process-based, it's not an object material-based fellowship, which is super incredible because those don't really exist anymore. So we support your processes of thinking and doing and testing things out. And so the similarities are like, so maybe you want to test out, like for the climate change, the climate justice fellow, maybe they want to test out playing with science kind of things, like water science and movement with that. And it doesn't work out for them and they shift to other ways, right? Maybe they wanted to collect data, but then maybe they change that into gestures, that data instead of hard data images, right? So it's a process, which doesn't have to end up as an object or a project. It can be just a conversation with us too, for like the symposium and sharing what the artist learns, what they didn't learn, their failures, their excitements, and of course you can make things along the way and create movement and performance as well. So the same goes with the Curatorial Disability Fellowship, is that this is a process and you can test things out just like in all the other fellowships. Like you can test out, like it sounds like you may have some disabled artists you're already working with. So you could, if you wanted to, they could be your mentors or your co-thinkers with testing out how you support those disabled artists in your show, or what is the best way to connect with them. There's multiple things that you could both come up together with about supporting yourself, the artists, and the show, in ways that aren't necessarily only financial, right? Because disability goes beyond financial, even though it's really important to have money and compensate everyone. That's super important, but there's so many other things too, right? What is the time? What is a timeline for a disability show? That might be like one of the biggest things you may be learning and thinking and talking about, because that's really important as well. And just even what is disability art for different folks? Like, what is that part of their culture? Those are conversations you could have that could become, if you wanted to make something materials, that could be a beautiful blog or a zine or anything like that. So those kind of things, which are identical to what a process-based way of doing and being work is, but also identical to what the other utopian fellowships are. Is that helpful?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, cool. Does anyone else have any questions or thoughts or anything you want to add? We have about 5 more minutes if anyone else wants to sit and think, or I'm happy to hold space. I'm happy to review any of the slides or go off the slide share. Actually, we should probably stop doing that. Is everyone okay with that? I'm going to go off the slide share, stop sharing. So you'll see this change. There we go. I'm happy to go through any of the Google Doc information or links that Clarinda kindly put into our chat if anyone wants to. I can do that during our session, or you can always email me as well. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, a big thank you to Gabriel and Zena for your ASL labor and love, your access love, and magic. Yeah, really great questions, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. And again, please get in touch with me, for any more questions that may come up, or thoughts or concerns or anything, at Moira at culturepush.org. And again, just please put in the Disability Fellowship and the line there, so I can be like, oh, I'll answer this one right away. Yeah,
Thanks, everyone. Yeah, no, I was just gonna say thank you for being here. It's actually really helpful because we are recording, so your questions will help everybody. So we really appreciate your time with us.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Moira speaking. Thank you so much for sharing time with us and asking really great questions. And again, thanks to Pro Bono ASL, Zena and Gabriel. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have a good night, everybody.
Have a great night.